Well, here we go. It is another Pittsburgh Hockey Now / No Pucks Given Penguins live chat. I am Dan Kingerski. Here's how this works, rather. Uh, this show is kind of driven by you. I'm going to touch on several topics here during the live chat. Obviously, most pressing for the Penguins, the health and the immediate outlook of Sidey Crosby. Not so great, quite frankly. I think the Penguins are, or actually, I think Crosby is really trying to play for the team because he knows just what's at stake over the next couple of games, especially. So he's really trying. I don't think it went very well Thursday at the UPMC Lemieux complex. But Dave Molinari has practice while I avoided the weather and got to New York City, or at least that's my excuse, the reason I came to New York City a day early. We'll talk about the playoffs, the realities, the realistic sort of situation there. We're not going to spend too much time on the realistic situation because I think you know exactly what that is. And we'll get into the NHL trade market. There's been a little bit of fallout from the Pettersson and O'Connor deal, largely because I'm a little surprised Vegas was in on Drew O'Connor. They I guess, were a more serious player than we realized. And Elliot Friedman reporting in his 32 Thoughts, I think it was yesterday, that Vancouver essentially wrestled O'Connor away. Vancouver wrestled O'Connor away from Vegas, which kind of puts that first-round draft pick into more context. Maybe it wasn't an overpay on the part of Vancouver, like a lot of people were saying. All right, so you can tell I'm in the hotel room. Let me see if I can share the screen here. Here's the view if I pulled up the shades. Unfortunately, the way the light's coming in, you can't really see it. Let's see, can I? No, I don't, darn. I've got a pretty cool view of, what's behind me. Anywho, I will be sharing the screen as we kind of go through the show. I didn't have a lot of time. I checked in, and I realized they let me check in like 1:45. I'm like, cool. I have time for a live chat, so that's what we're doing here. Let's get into the Sidey Crosby news. He tried to practice a lot of tip drills, went over to the other ice sheet with, a few other players, a lot of passing, some wrist shots, but not kind of full force. He wasn't letting rip, according to Dave Molinari. That's probably your first sign that he's got a little bit of a wrist elbow issue. I love the clickbait sites on Facebook. Devils defender vicious shot on Sidey Crosby. Literally, that was a headline. It's like, give me a break. A couple defenders kind of came together on Crosby, and that was it. Not exactly a vicious hit. And I guess I kind of see why Sid was maybe a little short with reporters after the game on Tuesday. He's probably in pain, one. Two, he's probably in pain. And knowing he was injured, that wasn't a good feeling. Because here's the situation. Let me share this screen. This one I actually know I can share. Let me pull up the standings. Yikes. You can see here the Penguins are 7 points back of Tampa Bay, or they're 9 points back of Ottawa. Ottawa has 1 game in hand on the Penguins. Tampa has 3 in hand. So really, they're at least 7 points behind a playoff spot. It could be 7, it could be 9. It actually, I guess 9 is the most it could be if Ottawa wins its game in hand and Tampa Bay wins a couple of their games in hand. So let's call it 8 or 9 points. That's the realistic number that the Penguins are. And they've got, 27 games to go, which means, let's do the math here, kids, 54 points available, 9 points back. Yikes. That's probably more than 70 points or 70% of the points at this point. So if they were to get 70% of the points from here with 54 points available, that's 39 points. So they're like 90, 91. If everybody else just kind of shards the bed, then they've got a shot. But I don't think Detroit and Tampa Bay and I don't even think Columbus is going to completely implode. If Columbus hasn't imploded by now, they're not gonna implode. I kind of like Columbus fighting and scrapping all the way to the end here. I like Montreal fighting and scrapping their way too. So back to Sidney Crosby. Let's assume they don't have him available Friday or Saturday, Rangers, Flyers. We're also going to assume that they don't have Evgeny Malkin available. Malkin is still week to week on IR, according to Coach Mike Sullivan, as of Thursday. Unless there's a miracle on 34th Street. Actually, that kind of works, doesn't it? Unless there's a miracle on 34th Street. That's where MSG is, by the way. The Penguins are going to have to go with Rickard Rakell at center. He's like, hey, Sid is Sid. I'll have to try to play my game, not complicated. Rakell played a little bit of center early on in his career with the Ducks. Still not ideal. You're like, hey, call somebody up. Well, I think the person they would have called up, Tristan Brose, is unavailable. He's got mono, who he was kissing. That's his business. But they can't really call him up. I don't think you insert Joona Koppanen into the lineup. I suppose Rickard Rakell in this situation is probably a better a better replacement than, say, Sam Poulin as well. Vasily Ponomarev is really a fourth line guy. Again, you're kind of just padding numbers with a guy like Ponomarev. So they're going to have to really button up and play just lights out defense and forecheck against the Rangers and Flyers, and hope Ned and Joel Blomqvist can kind of bail them out. I think that's where they're at with that. Let me share this other screen here. So I think this is important to set up as we have this little chat. The money puck odds to make the playoffs. Dun, dun, dun. We keep going down with the Penguins. Where's the Penguins? 7 points, 6.8, 5.9, 1.6% for the Penguins to make the playoffs. Playoffs? In all honesty, I would love for the Penguins to make me eat my words. I think that would be a lot of fun to cover. It was kind of fun to cover at the end of last year, too, where they just made that charge. I'd love for them to make me eat my words, even after I've shoveled plenty of dirt on their grave. If they lose one, or if they fail to get at least 3 points against Rangers Flyers, it's over. At that point, they're probably 9 to 11 points out with 25 games to go. You're not making that up. Just absolutely not making that up. So I think that's the Crosby situation. Just perhaps it's the silver lining, right? This is going to make Kyle Dubas' job easier if the team understands that they had some bad luck. They're not going to be in the playoff race. Well, they have that to hang their hat on, where it doesn't become this mortally wounding sort of thing like it did last year. Let's go to Brendan. Have you talked about the MP trade in video form yet? If not, could I touch on it today? Love hearing your thoughts on these types of things. Well, no, I haven't, Brendan. You're also welcome to try the print version. I understand we're in America. I understand that if it's not 90 seconds on TikTok or one of the Instagram quickie feeds where someone basically regurgitates whatever I wrote. I understand that. Just read, man. I went through like in great detail the ins and the outs, so much more than I probably would talk about. But we'll start with Pettersson and O'Connor. My initial reaction was, wow, it was nice to be on the other side of a Jim Rutherford overpay for once. Having learned what we've learned over the last couple of days, that Vegas and Edmonton were seriously, were very interested in O'Connor. I think that makes what Vancouver gave up pretty solid. I think it puts it in more context. It's not so much of an overpay. I like the fact that the Penguins got Desharnais. I think he's been solid. It's not a coincidence that other teams have had trouble scoring against the Penguins since Desharnais arrived. If he can keep Alex Nedeljkovic or, Blomqvist's eyes clear, more so than the other two pairings, that's a bit of a break for the goaltender, isn't it? Danton Heinen is what he is. He's kind of Danton Heinen is a poor man's top sixer. So right now the Penguins are certainly in need of that sort of plug and play into the lineup. The big thing here, Brendan, about the trade, obviously, is that first round pick. Now, it's not just a first round pick. The Rangers, unfortunately, won again on Wednesday night. They beat the Bruins. The Bruins just kind of imploded, essentially, just down the street. Here is how do I put this? You're essentially rooting for the Rangers to lose, but not too much. You either want the Rangers to be in that 14, 15, kind of range because the pick is a top 13 protected, or you want the Rangers to completely collapse so that the pick punts to 2026. And you'll probably get a better player at 20 or 25 in 26 than you would at 15 in 2025. So did I say that right? You'll get a better pick at 2025 next year than you would at 15 this year. At least that's kind of my take on what the draftniks are saying. Can you hear the sirens? It is New York City, after all. That's where I think the Penguins hope. But what Dubas is doing with that pick, and this isn't me breaking news or intel, this is what Dubas said. Because they have that extra first-round pick, now they can enter additional trade conversations. My immediate thought went to the guys in Buffalo. They've got a trio of prospects who are kind of right there on the cusp of the NHL, who can't really crack the Sabres lineup, but they're young enough that they've got potential and value, far more so than, Philip Tomasino, who was had for peanuts, that 2027 fourth round pick. So that's where we're at. I think you're going to see Dubas be very aggressive with that first round pick, which is fortunate for him because I think he's lost the ability to sell salary cap space, at least for a little while. With the salary cap spike next year, Brendan, that I think that lessens the Penguins' advantage. It lessens their leverage over the rest of the market because everyone now is going to have like an extra $5 million they didn't expect to have. They're all going to spend it. Most teams are going to spend to their cap internally or externally. So Dubas has to wait until the drunken sailors blow into town, spend all their money, and then get buyer's remorse. Then Dubas can go back to work with the salary cap space he's going to have. Also, I can confirm that the Penguins will remain a salary cap team if it makes sense on the ice, rather. Dubas is not going to have restrictions placed upon him by FSG. He's, they're going to be able to spend what they need to spend full stop. The organization has made that clear from the top down. So despite the fact that they're, maybe taking on a minority investor at some point, despite the spike in the cap and Pittsburgh being a mid-market team, all of those sorts of things, the hockey ops will have as much money as they need. Losing O'Connor, I like Drew very much. He clearly was not having a very good year in Pittsburgh. I think he's a natural center. I think Mike Sullivan erred by not just dropping him in the middle and letting things fall where they may, let him get better at faceoffs, bring Matt Cullen in, have Matt Cullen live at his house for a week, whatever, get him better at faceoffs. I liked O'Connor. I think it was mid to late November on that Canadian trip. I recall, I think he played center in Winnipeg, in Winnipeg against Winnipeg. I think that was part of that stretch where O'Connor played in the middle. I could be wrong. Might have been in December. I've covered all 54, 55 games at this point. I have no idea. Some days where I'm at. With Pettersson, you lose your reliable, your steady guy. I'm surprised they haven't recalled Owen Pickering just yet. I think it's a little bit of a blow to the Penguins, but by the same token, P.O. Joseph and Chris Letang are just fine. Matt Grzelcyk is playing the hockey of his life, I think. Grzelcyk had a game on Saturday, and then he was really good on Tuesday as well. He's playing really well beside Carlson, and so from that standpoint, there isn't a great drop off without Pettersson. In all respect to the Dragon, where the Penguins are in their life cycle, I think the trade made great sense. I think the Penguins got a great return, and that's all I got to say about that. How's that, Brendan? Did I answer your question? Let's get to Michael here. Sid says, Michael says about Sid, I think he will be good to go. He came back in versus the Devils and looked good to go. Yep. See, Michael, you have to keep paying attention here. Come on, man. He labored through. He missed practice on Wednesday. He labored through it Thursday and left early. So don't get too sure there. Gable, how'd I like the Book of Mormon? I tried to choose my seats judiciously. I took the aisle seat a couple rows above the balcony. And wouldn't you know it, I kid you not, guy 2 rows ahead. I thought he was 6'8". Blocked part of my view. So I was kind of like doing this. And then this massive dude sits beside me. Not he wasn't Jabba the Hutt massive. I mean, he was just a big dude. I'm like, crap. But then we all get up to leave, and this dude I thought was 6'8", 2 rows ahead of me is actually shorter than me. He just had a head that was a freaking watermelon. I almost wanted to say, man, you've got a big head. Sit in the back. Find somewhere else to sit. I digress. I thought the first half of Book of Mormon was good. I thought the second half was great. That was my first musical I've ever seen. So it's not my genre. If it wasn't the South Park guys, I certainly wouldn't have. I liked it. I'd probably give it a 7.5 of 10. The second half, after the intermission, when they turned the little guy loose, Arnold, then that was awesome. The first half, when he was kind of a bit player or, just comic relief to the Mormon sort of, setting up the construct, that I could have done without a lot of that. They could have done that in 10 or 15 minutes. One song. Okay, you're a square. Let's move on. But they belabored that a little bit. See, I'm a critic with everything. I must be insufferable sometimes. Let's go to Sonny. Can we attach the extra first-round pick to Jarry or Graves to move either of their contracts? Yes, you certainly could. Do you want to, though? Not really. I think they're getting some value out of Graves. At least he's at least serviceable, right? So you want to hang on to that as long as you can. There's nothing wrong with sending him to the minors at some point if his game regresses again. Otherwise, no, I don't. I don't think you do that. Jarry, yeah, that's a tough one. You're going to be stuck with that Jarry contract. I think what happens with that first round pick, though, is it gets traded for a young player. I don't think the Penguins are going to spend to the cap over the next couple of seasons in order to be competitive. I think they'll spend to the cap, if they do, to acquire more assets. More. They will acquire more salary dumps that come with draft picks, or prospects, or what have you. I don't think you spend an asset that you don't have to spend. I think they can. I think they can do it. I'm getting all kinds of texts now. There'll be a pretty good story. My Chicago Hockey Now guy just talked to Connor Bedard about the comments from Bissonnette last night. That'll be on Chicago Hockey Now here pretty soon. So this is what my day is like. Meeting at 10 a.m., phone blowing up all day, this or that. Let's see. That's a lot of teams to jump, says Jennifer, meaning the playoff race. Yeah, that's why the odds are 1.6. Yeah, that's Mr. Dorfman, head of the Delta Pledge class. No, wait. 1.6 was... Oh, Robert Hoover, Mr. Hoover, 1.6, head of the Delta grade point average. Yes, I loved Animal House. Michael Amen saying, I think he'll miss Friday but play Saturday. Listen, unless they put Sid in a hyperbolic chamber and he magically heals, he's hurt. He's gritting through it. He's gaming it. But if Sid plays out there one-armed and everyone knows he's one-armed, you're going to see the Rangers and Flyers just pound on him. And it's not happening. You have to, discretion being the better part of valor. Big Joe, I hope all is well. I know they said the top 7 is good in this draft. Will you do any picks you might like to see soon? Oh, well, I do. Okay, well, I start doing mock drafts if the Penguins keep sinking. I will not do a mock draft myself. I will, however, bring in experts to help me out. I think that's what Pittsburgh Hockey Now is best at. We've got a big enough Rolodex where I can pick up the phone and have some people help us. And let's be honest, the last couple or few years, I've had some pretty good help from scouts, and not the Penguin scouts, but amateur scouts, and even some scouts within hockey who traverse the juniors pretty well, that have informed us. In fact, one of our scouts a couple of years ago was screaming, they need to take Lane Hootson. Look, this is the kid. Scout was right. But I will certainly be getting into draft content, Big Joe, without question. I've got a 2-week break here coming up beginning this weekend. Oh, believe me, I will be licking that peanut butter jar dry or clean. Either way. And if you've never seen a grown man lick a peanut butter jar, well, you're probably better off. Let's go with that regular dude. 1.6. There is hope, I say tongue-in-cheek. It was down to like 0.9% last year. 1.62% last year. I kid you not. So they got him where they want him. I actually just made coffee in the hotel room here. So let's see here. Gable back. If Sid wants to be Obi-Wan, as it seems he does, perhaps an extended stint on IR is the best way for him to acquire a Luke. This year's draft Draft has a big drop off after the top 4. Yeah, somewhere in that top 10, there is a cliff. The cliffs of Dover. And you need a giant to scale them. If you get that reference. Lars Nielsen, in my opinion, not so humble, I guess. There's no H in there. In my opinion, says Lars, the best thing that can happen with the New York Rangers pick is for the Pens to keep it and the Rangers to finish. Oh, yeah. Finish under the top 13 this year. It's actually 13, not 12, Lars. But yeah, then really stink in 26. Never count out the Rangers to disappoint the fan base. I think that is exactly right. If the Penguins can somehow get a top 15 pick in 26, oh, they're going to be happy, happy, happy. Do me a favor, like and subscribe. Those of you watching this live stream. Let me grab my coffee here. My throat's getting a little dry. Looks like we're having a little trouble with the mic. It just kind of turned off on me. Hopefully y'all could hear me. Okay, no one's yelling about the microphone, so we're good there. Let me get back to the questions. Okay, Jake Bacon. What's up, Dan? What's up, Bacon? Since there was no call-up, is that an indication that Sid's injury isn't significant? Well, one, it's only 2 o'clock on Thursday. 2, Wilkes-Barre is an hour and a half away. 3, I think Sid is being evaluated. 4, there really isn't anybody to call up. Would you call up Ponomarev or Poulin and plug them into the bottom of the lineup and kind of move your fourth line up one and move your second line up one? I don't know. I think Dubas and Sullivan will have a real conversation about that this weekend or today, rather. And just kind of say, okay, will one of these guys help us, or will keeping our fourth line together and keeping our third line together and second line, will that help us? It's an honest question. I know a lot of you would want to see Ponomarev, especially in the lineup. I'd like to see I want to see Poulin just get angry. I want to see him snap out of whatever this block is when he gets to the NHL and he becomes a different player. He becomes very antiseptic. He becomes slow in the NHL. He's not a great skater to begin with, but he becomes a vanilla player at the NHL level. And I want to see him just throw caution to the wind and say, damn it, let's go. Put a couple people through the glass. I want to see him lock down the defensive zone. I want to see him play his best hockey at the NHL level. I'd love to see that. I don't think we've seen it. He's had opportunities, and he's receded to not making mistakes rather than trying to succeed. And no, that's not Mike Sullivan's fault. Cameron, at this point in the season, I don't see the logic in calling up one of the up-and-coming kids in the system. Let them continue to build together and hopefully make a good playoff run. Dubas did allude to that last Saturday. It's kind of funny you mentioned that, Cameron. In fact, let me see if I'm probably tired of looking at my face. Let's pull up Kyle. Let's pull up Kyle's face. Where is it? But Dubas actually said pretty much exactly here. Well, that's Dave Molinari's column. Let me get back. But what Dubas said was they're not going to call up somebody for kind of a weekend vacation. There we go. Wait, there. Wait, come on. Share screen. Dubas. Done. There. I actually disagree with that philosophy, however. I think it would behoove the Penguins to call up a couple of these kids and give them a weekend pass in the NHL, even a game or two. I think it would. The problem is, like, Ville Koivunen isn't quite ready. Maybe he is. The last couple of weeks, I haven't seen him in 6 weeks now. I haven't seen him play in actually closer to 2 months. So I can't say he's not ready. I can say he wasn't ready a couple of months ago. Tristan Brose has mono. So I think the players you'd want to call up for that little cup of coffee, just to maybe spur their development, aren't necessarily available. But they don't want to do that anyway. Like, as you mentioned, Cameron, they want to keep them together, let them keep building something special down there, and only bring them up when they're ready to stay. It's a valid philosophy. I'm not going to say it's wrong. I'm just saying I wouldn't dismiss a weekend pass for them. Connor, I root for the Rangers to lose already. I know a lot of you do. Regular dudes coming back. Is it fair to suggest that Desharnais serves as a good complement to Ryan Graves? Seems like he does, given his physical tools. Maybe Graves can better play to his own skill set. I don't know. Graves' skill set is interesting. It's not what everyone thought it was. He's supposed to be a big stay-at-home guy with a bit of jam in his game and certainly taking away a lot of the offensive zone because he's got a wingspan like a condor. However, it hasn't worked out that way on the whole in his time in Pittsburgh. On paper, absolutely not, dude. On paper, Desharnais and Graves are too homogenous to play at the same time. But yet some sort of synchronicity is happening, at least in the first couple of games with Graves and Desharnais, that they've been a pretty good pairing. Go figure. I think we need several games to see the breakout numbers, kind of the offensive change of possessions, those sorts of things. They've kept goals out of the net, but are they being buried in the defensive zone with no hope of turning it around? That's going to be how that pairing is judged. Can they get the puck out of the zone? That's all they have to do. Not be scored on, move the puck forward, get off the ice. Mike Sullivan sort of alluded to that, I think, after the first game. He's like, well, we'll see. He described then how big they are and what they can do, but he was non-committal, I think rightfully so. On paper, dude, Shea and Desharnais would be the much better pairing. On paper, anyway. I think Desharnais would complement Shea and Shea Desharnais. But I also go back to 2018-19, December 3rd. Was it December 3rd? December 8th. When the Penguins acquired Marcus Pettersson from the Anaheim Ducks for Daniel Sprong, just sort of out of necessity, Sullivan moved Jack Johnson over to the right, Pettersson on the left. You're like, oh boy, this is going to be awful. A seventh defenseman from Anaheim with Jack Johnson, who already struggles with the puck. This is going to be terrible. And it's actually a very, very good defensive pairing. They figured it out, and it worked for quite a while. I think it actually sort of resurrected Jack Johnson's Penguins career because he was just about run out of town at the end of the line. Now, there were a lot of stubborn people who wouldn't let it go, but I digress. Sometimes it works that way. Penguin 8766. Gee, I wonder where you got those numbers, Penguin. 100% want New York Rangers to stink this year. An unprotected 2026 pick is very much what the Penguins need. Only once confirmed the pick. Only once confirmed that the pick is 2025. Should they think about trading it? I think that's fair. They've got plenty of time. Yeah, they've got the ability to be patient unless one of the players they really like comes available. I don't know why Buffalo would do it, but I know some of the message boards and some of the, the rumor sites, if I'm being honest here, and I usually am too honest, a lot of those rumor sites don't know what the hell they're doing. They get fanboy GM and not, don't go cold logic GM. And they were connecting the Penguins to the Sabres 2024. Sabres 2024 first round pick, like 14th overall. What's his name? Helenius, a centerman. And I'm thinking, why would the Rangers trade, or why would the Sabres trade a 14th overall selection for a first round pick that might be worse? Like, what? No, that's not how this works. Connor Haberland says, reminds me of what Washington did with the extra first round pick they used when they flipped for you mean Rasmus Sandin? Yeah, not Rasmus Samson. I know what you mean. Yeah, and the funny thing is, Dubas was on the other end of that trade in Toronto. He's the one who traded Sandin for that first round pick to Washington. Go figure. Oh, Connor corrects himself. There you go. See, Sandin. Here's a good question. I don't know how interested any of you are in the Kevin Acklin resigning story. I think in fact, I know the Pittsburgh Business Times, I think, had it first. I think we had it second. We confirmed it, internally with the Penguins. They sent us over the statement that they were going to release. No, I don't think you should make a lot of it, other than I think you can use it to sort of learn about the Penguins organization. Earlier, if you just jumping in here, I did kind of mention at the top of the show that FSG will be allowing the Penguins to spend to the cap, even when it's $114 million, if that's what's best for the team. Now, I happen to know a lot of ex-employees. Over the last 2 years, FSG has not been gentle in reshaping the front office top to bottom. Also realize, 3 years now, they've gone through 2 presidents. It was no surprise when David Morehouse left. Morehouse was a Mario guy, or Mario and Burkle guy. When your owners leave and you're kind of unprotected, you better be the best or, very quickly become their guy. And Morehouse, realized he wasn't becoming their guy, took the exit. Is with the Steelers now. Acklin surprises me a little bit from what I know of him and just the very passing interactions I've had with him. And really, they're limited to about the elevator. But we have friends in common. So, friends and ex-employees, and just, Pittsburgh is a small town. People talk. And I'm sort of giving you all the background here to give you this answer so that you don't misconstrue it. FSG has a very certain way they run their business. It's kind of, in a sense, it's a little bit Bob Nutting, where they watch every penny like a hawk. What makes FSG very different is that FSG isn't afraid to lose $1 today if it makes them $1.50 tomorrow or increases their value tomorrow. FSG does it right. Bob Nutting does it way wrong. But it can also be a little bit, I imagine it can be tedious or burdensome when you're the top guy dealing with FSG literally every day. okay, yesterday we spent $10,000 on this or $15,000 on that. And they're like, oh, well, could you have spent 12 on that? And that sort of constant. I also wonder, and I don't know, if because FSG is basically a hedge fund, right? If it's not as much fun to be a president of business, for FSG as it might have been to be the same position, to be the president under Mario, where you've got a lot of power. I would imagine so. I imagine Mario ran the place like a family business. And sometimes that gives you more freedom than working for Wall Street. But in terms of trouble, no, there's no trouble in the Penguins organization. This is, I think, the natural evolution and flow of things. Long answer, probably longer than you were expecting, wasn't it? Flux CC. Oh, is that flux capacitor? Is that what CC stands for? I'm gonna need some cough drops after this. Geez, we've already done 41 minutes. If we end up losing one or both of these next couple of games and fall 10 plus points out of a playoff spot, does that trigger Dubas to be even more aggressive at this trade deadline? I don't know if that is possible. What I mean by that, Flux, I don't know if Dubas wasn't going to be level 10 aggressive at this trade deadline. I think there's a possibility. I think they should consider holding on to Rickard Rakell long term. He's cheap, tremendous production, fits in perfectly. You can't abandon Sidey Crosby. You just can't. He's committed at a lower than market value. And I think you owe him a little bit. So what that means to me is you consider keeping Rickard Rakell unless you get a certain bounty. And a certain bounty is more than a late first round pick. That doesn't do it for me. That might be what Rakell is worth on the open market. And you're saying, well, Dan, take it. I don't think a 25th overall pick, 30th overall pick for Rickard Rakell, I don't think that makes your organization better in the next 5 years. It might never make your organization better because those picks are notoriously unreliable about making an impact in the NHL. See also Sam Poulin. And I don't mean to downgrade Owen Pickering in any way. He was 21st overall. So if he's a 4-6 defenseman, would you trade a an average top 4 defenseman, a pretty good third pairing defenseman? I think that's Pickering's role, second, third pairing guy. Of course, that kid surprised me already. Maybe he does develop into a top pairing guy. He's just, he absorbs things like a sponge. There's a lot to like and praise about him. But let's say he's kind of, middle of the road there. Would you trade Owen Pickering for Rickard Rakell? Put it in those terms, you might say no. You hang on to Rakell for another couple of years and then trade him with 1 year remaining on his contract, or heck, you might even just keep Crosby, Rakell, and Rust together and build around those 3 guys. Why not? Mark. Hi, Dan. Appreciate all the hard work this year. A couple of questions. I'll separate them in the chat. First one is, what are your thoughts on Ackland resigning? Okay, I guess I already got to that. What does it mean for the Penguins? It really doesn't mean anything for the Penguins. I'm starting to hear some rumblings about Sportsnet 360. There are a lot of challenges with these regional sports networks. They are not, they were unprofitable to begin with. And my gut says that FSG is getting a rude awakening on some of the tactics they've brought to 360 that worked very well at Nesson, or they expected to have more success off the bat. 360 has this website that's, just giant aggregation. They've got, these young writers, I assume they're based in Boston, just cranking out content. Boom, 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 boom. And the World Wide Web, in terms of getting your news out there, is dramatically different today than it was a year ago. Ask me. I'll tell you all about it. And so I'm not going to help FSG in this regard unless they pay me a good bit of money. I've said this about the newspapers as well. If one of these newspapers or FSG would pay me to consult, it would take me 2 days. In fact, it might even take me, an afternoon to show them what they're doing, what they should be doing, what they could be doing, and what they should not be doing. For these legacy media companies, what they should not be doing is typically what they are doing. And we're going to leave it at that. These companies leave millions on the table. No joke. Because they're just, we put the games on, we sell advertising. That's how we make money, right? FSG is smart enough to have a website attached. I'm not going to help them any more than that. I'm going to stop right there. I suspect that FSG will be just fine. They've got plenty of money. The Penguins bring in plenty of money. It's in a couple of years where I think we're going to see the effects, and we're going to find out FSG's pain tolerance. Perhaps even next year when the season tickets go down. Be Malkin's last year, and Letang seems to be gliding towards the end as well. We'll see what season tickets are like next year, and then we're going to find out exactly what FSG is made of. Right now, it's still kind of easy, I think. I've answered that question. Let's go to John. Never count Sid out. And can you see a world where Jarry is moved either at the trade deadline or this summer? Otherwise, would one assume a buyout? Well, the LA Kings found a buyer for Cal Peterson. And he had probably a similar terrible contract to Tristan Jarry, and he wasn't as good. So if LA can find a way to unload Peterson there, I suppose anything is possible, especially with the spike in the salary cap. If the Penguins ate 50%, here, let me do this trade math for you. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of Jarry. So you're looking at Jarry and not my mug. There we go. All right, we'll get Jarry crouched. That's the one we'll use. Share screen. More on Jarry's future. Ta-da! Here, stare at Tristan Jarry. Follow me on this math, and I think a GM would figure this out pretty quickly. Let's say the Penguins, instead of buying out Tristan Jarry, and I've done the math, obviously it would be 6 years. The final 3 years would be a $797 penalty. That's nothing. Less than $1 million with $100 million salary cap. Yeah, that's kind of peanuts for 3 years. And they could get away with that. Let's talk about trading him. If the Penguins eat 50% this summer for 3 years, that's let's call it 2.7 for a nice round number. It's a little bit less than 2.7. If a GM were to trade for Jarry at 2.7 and say, wow, this is absolutely not working, and they send him to the AHL, let's say Edmonton, where actually would kind of make great sense. Edmonton would be one of the places that might consider this. And Jarry doesn't work in Edmonton. So now they're stuck with Jarry at 2.7 for 3 years, right? Wrong. If they send him down to the AHL, they send him through waivers like the Penguins did. They get to stash in the coming years about $1.5 million. So now this goaltender you took a chance on, it's only costing you $1.2 million a year. would some team take that gamble for 3 years at 1.2 million on your cap? I could see a desperate team doing it if Tristan Jarry plays well at the AHL level. He's got to do that. I think he's off to a pretty good start, but he's got to keep his attitude up. He's got to, stop pucks. I think the Penguins would love to do that. And then if some other team bought him out in a year, the Penguins get hit with a 4-year penalty of half. So possible. If Cody Glass, actually, maybe Kevin Hayes is a better example. If Kevin Hayes netted the Penguins a second-round pick to eat 2 years of $3.5 million, then 3 years of $2.7 million probably cost the Penguins a second-round pick too. Rough numbers. We're in that ballpark. That would be the market rate. Have I kind of answered the question? The buyout would cost $3 million next year, so they would save $2.5 million next year. Again, I'm using rough numbers. I'm doing this off the top of my head. In 2 years, it would cost them $5 million, so they'd only save like $700,000. In 3 years, it would cost them about $4 million, so they'd only save about 1.7. And then the following 3 years would be $797,000. So it really would be a 3-year buyout. John Powell, great show as always, Dan. Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate all you do with the Pens coverage. Thank you. I mean, I'm humbled by that. I got a note from somebody in the Penguins organization this morning too, kind of saying how much they appreciated what I do for Penguins fans, and I was just blown away by that. I'm getting more compliments now that I'm taking a day. I didn't quite take a full day off. I'm doing this. I wrote this morning. I've been working meetings and stuff here in New York. But the less I write, the more people like me. Rob, Dan, can you rank your pizzas 1 through 3? Did I get to John's on Bleecker Street? No, I haven't gotten to John's. Real easy. My favorite pizza here in New York City is Little Italy Pizza. They've got numerous locations through Manhattan. You don't have to go all the way down to Little Italy. What Little Italy Pizza does, in fact, there's one just up from MSG. It's on 8th and call it 41st, 42nd Street. They kind of do like Bella Notte in the Strip District, where they have a bit of cornmeal on the bottom of their crust. And, oh, it's so good. That's my favorite. I will get to John's on Bleecker Street. There's a lot of same pizza. Like there's Bravo just down from MSG, which I think it's on 30th and 8th. No. Sorry. Bravo is 30th and 7th. Can you tell I like pizza? I know. Like, oh, no, 30th and 7th. My barber is on 7th and 40th. It's a little second story deal. If you're in New York and you need a haircut, I definitely recommend them. It's a little pricey. Don't get me wrong. I think I paid, was it 40 or 60 bucks last time to get my hair chopped? But well worth it. He actually takes his time and does it right. No, he's a barber, not, like the national chains. And a lot of those women don't really know how to cut a guy's hair, but I don't really have time to go find a barber when I'm on the road. So, you pull up the app and you go to one of these little places that is national chain, and you just keep it simple. When you don't have much hair, you do what you can. Okay. Gable, the GOVP. Rumor has it that the Avs are looking to move on from Casey Middlestat. Any chance Dubas will be interested? That's interesting choice of words, Gable. The Avs would like to improve upon Casey Middlestat. I don't know that they're going to move on from him until the offseason, until they find something better. Would Dubas be interested? What is Middlestat, 24 now? 25 even. I suppose I can look it up. Let's do that together, kids. Here we go. Casey. And we'll go to Puckpedia so we can look at his contract all at the same time. Dun, dun, dun. Let's share the screen. There's Casey Middlestat, Puckpedia. Oh, he's 26 now. First year of a 3-year deal with a $575 cap hit. Woo. That's a little spicy, if you ask me. Let's check the bottom line stats this year. 32 points, 55 games. That kind of stinks for a second-line center on that talented of a team. His Corsi, 7.7% below team average. Yuck. Goals, I'm sorry, that's goals for. He's only at 46%. Yikes. That's terrible. His Corsi is 5% below team average. 26, I would say pass. Unless you get paid to take him. I don't think Middlestat would be in that realm where someone gets paid to take him. But at $575 million for 2 more years after this one, geez, maybe. And if you get paid to take him, abso-friggin-lutely. But I wouldn't spend assets. I don't think, if you can't, he's had Buffalo, he's had Colorado. Alexander Popel, or is that Popeil? Help me, Mr. Popeil. Sorry, that's like an 80s reference. Ron Popeil was Billy Mays before Billy Mays. In the 80s, the pocket fisherman, the spray-on hair, all those crazy things. Those were Ron Popeil inventions. Weird Al did a song about it. Help me, Mr. Popeil. Anyway, Alexander Popel. What do you think about Ville Koivunen and Emil Bemstrom? Both have good stats at Wilkes-Barre. Koivunen, to me, when I saw him in December, look, I wanted to write good things about him. To me, he was playing on the perimeter too much. To me, he wasn't asserting himself with his skills yet. I kind of felt like he was a part of the game, but still too much in the background, still adjusting, still thinking in early December. Obviously, he's exploded since then, right? And, I guess he's developed more of a physical edge to his game, which is great. He certainly got hands. That is obvious. You can see just he can stick handle in a shoebox. He's that kind of guy. I think he's probably getting pretty close. You don't put up the goals and the numbers he's put up in the last month, at 21 years old without having some skill and talent, especially without their top line center, Bros, who's out. So what do I think of him? People have told me when he finally puts it all together, he's going to be really good. I have no reason to doubt the people who have told me that. I can only tell you what I've seen so far, and there were still some puzzle pieces missing. Sounds like he's adding those pieces. Emil Bemstrom, boy, that's a tough one. I absolutely was blown away by what I saw in December from Bemstrom. He was an animal on the puck, between the dots, letting it rip. He skates pretty well. He was kind of a man amongst boys. Unfortunately, Bemstrom seems to play that way in the AHL. He's an animal in the a mouse in the NHL. Is he young enough to put, to get over that? Yes. Would I give him another shot? Yes. It would not be a long shot. It would not be a month. It would be a week, maybe 2 weeks, with the very stated direction. You need to do X, Y, and Z, and you need to do it now, or you're never getting another shot. period. Perhaps this is why I'm not an NHL GM. I would say brusque things like that and just walk out of the room. Try to motivate somebody a little bit. Yeah, I think Bemstrom is probably deserving of a chance somewhere. You might see Bemstrom be a throw-in in one of these, a deal at the trade deadline, just doing right by the player. If the Penguins aren't sold on him, maybe somebody else is. Very much like the Alex Nylander for Emil Bemstrom trade, where both teams just didn't want their guy anymore and said, here, try it elsewhere. Mark Malvivi is back again as we approach the post-Sid era. The Pens have had the next one since 1984 with Mario, and then Jágr, and then Crosby. With the current farm and where the Pens will be drafting in the future, what current NHL team would best compare to the future Pens? How about 25 others? I mean, the Penguins are about to enter the other side. How the other half lives. They're about to go over to the other side of the fence with everybody else, just trying to scrape by with a decent number one center and a good team, and you hope to put enough good pieces together to be really competitive. That's where the Penguins are headed. It will be a superstar-less team unless they get lucky. It happens. JR, what's your magic get in the playoffs number for the Penguins this year? 92 points? ? No, I think it's 95, which is why I think the Penguins are out. I think it's going to take a real, these other teams, there's too many other teams. There's too much mediocrity. Even if a couple or a few teams collapse as they did last year, there's still enough other teams that are going to pick up those points because you're playing other Eastern Conference teams. If a few teams suck, that means they're giving points away to the other teams. 95, I think, is a fair number. 94, 96. It's entirely possible. Look at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay could be on pace for like 98 points. It might take that many, which would mean the Penguins have to get like 80%. 80% of 44. Yeah. For the Penguins to get to like 98 points, they'd need 80% of the remaining points available. That would be that would be impressive. Michael says, can we see Graves getting sent down? Maybe Pickering called up. Why did we send Pickering down again? He was fantastic with the Pens. Pickering was fantastic. His game was trending down. The NHL grind was beginning to wear on the rookie a little bit. He had a couple of bad games. And rather than leave him to languish, kind of on the downward trend, I think the Penguins stepped in wisely, I might add. I had no problem with the Penguins making the move when they did. There's no bigger critic of Owen Pickering than Owen Pickering. So I think from that standpoint, they headed off a situation that maybe would have done some harm in the near future. Send him back down, let him absorb the lessons that he learned. He's a really cerebral player. Let him implement those things. Let him work. Let him have some fun. Let him have some fun with that young and hungry group down there. Win some more games, and then come on back up with a running start when it makes sense. Could they send Graves down? I don't know why you would. He's been, for the most part, serviceable. You'd only send Ryan Graves down to the AHL if he becomes your eighth defenseman. And you realize that he's playing as well as he can play and he's eighth. Then you send him down. If he's playing in your top six and he's playing serviceably, it's a long contract. You don't want to send him down. That's kind of a last resort. Who do I think gets traded? 72-24, said Hut. Oh, sorry. What would it take for you to trade 67? What would blow you away? I think to trade Rickard Rakell, I want a number one and a good prospect. Then I trade him. Anything below that, I'm keeping him. Yeah, I think it's entirely possible. And I think it's possible Beauvillier gets traded. Although for his cost and what he's meant to the team, I mean, is he worth... Is someone going to give a third-round pick for him? I don't know. Anything less than that, you keep him. You re-sign him as kind of your next level Dominic Simone. Matt Grzelcyk, yes, I think you get a second-round pick all day for Grzelcyk, which I do believe they will take, thus opening the spot. Remember that kid I was talking about, Owen Pickering? Thus opening the spot back up for Owen Pickering. NES Addict is back. Chances Sid skips Four Nations. I suppose we'll find out in the next couple of days. I would say 50-50. JR, do I see Emil Bemstrom in Pittsburgh once again? Is he likely put in a... Yeah, he's going to be put in a package. That's my guess. And, oh, geez, JR. Here's JR's trade proposal. If you can't see this, you're listening to the podcast later. Let's say Pittsburgh, the New York Rangers first-round pick. So the Rangers first-round pick, Emil Bemstrom, Sam Poulin, and Matt Nieto for Dylan Cousins. Why would Buffalo do that again? What, is there any other bad players you want to toss in that mix, JR? Maybe Ryan Shea you want to put in there? Like you want to just add all the players you don't want. And yeah, trade them for... You're killing me. To answer your question, JR, no. With 29 draft picks over the next 3 years, I'm having a hard time not getting excited, says Brian. I think we will see a lot of wheeling and dealing for young NHLers versus actually using most of those. Or do I think, you can't possibly make 29 picks. You just can't. So yes, I think the Penguins will try to buy younger players with those picks. How many? I suppose that depends on the other 31 general managers and what they make available to the Penguins for what the Penguins have to give. You know, you can say we should do this or we should do that. The other teams get a say in the matter too. And if they're not biting on what the Penguins have, maybe you do make 25 or 26 of those 29 picks because you just can't get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you might find you get what you need. Let's see. Let's go to Matt. Who do I think still gets moved? Matt thinks Grzelcyk gets a third rounder. No. A top 4 defenseman, second rounder, absolutely. What about Kevin Hayes? Interesting. I think Kevin Hayes has to play better hockey. Or let me rephrase that, not better hockey. I think Kevin Hayes right now is playing pretty good hockey. I think he has to continue playing this level of good hockey for longer period of time. How's that? And if he continues to play as well as he has played over, say, the past few weeks, since he came back into the lineup in, mid-January, then he becomes a trade option. Until then, he's the guy that St. Louis dumped in a salary dump. Matt thinks Rakell and Rust get us a first plus some. Well, Brian Rust has trade protection until July 1st. And if you're only getting a first for Rickard Rakell, no deal. Not taking it. I'll take a mid-round first pick for Rakell. And even then, I'd hesitate, to be honest. I think Rakell makes the team much better. I think Rakell allows the team to be competitive. And you're saying, but Dan, they have to tank. They have to lose. No, they don't. And they don't want to. If a competitive team produces or is better for a prospect to plug them in, prospects plugged into competitive teams do better than prospects plugged into bad teams, empty teams. So they have to keep a few players. I'm not saying Rickard Rakell will be kept. I'm saying they should consider it unless their price is way up here is met. Cam is back. What are the chances we see the Pens move on from Sully this offseason? Slim to none. I think Sullivan's actually done his best coaching this season. His best coaching since 2016. And I know you're all bored of him and the caricature created, oh, he won't play young players. He hates toughness. Those are sitcom tropes that bear little resemblance to the reality. There just haven't been any young players for the Penguins to play. Look at this year. Tomasino, Pickering. How many guys in their mid-20s? A handful. Sullivan's played them all. But because he plays Matt Nieto over Jesse Puljujärvi, you all, or I shouldn't say you all, a lot of you go nuts and lose your marbles and don't look at the big picture. Unless the Penguins absolutely implode and have a mutiny, Sullivan is back. Josh, how would you rate how Blomqvist has done since becoming the backup? Well, he's only played one game, so I'm not gonna rate that. Blomqvist was good in his one start, but Nedeljkovic has just commanded that net. Nedeljkovic has taken that net and said, okay, boys, let's go. And I think Sullivan loves that. He's rewarding that. The Rotten Egg. Any word? I love spell check. I assume spell check got you, Rotten Egg. It says, any word on Filipino Larson coming back from injury and make an NHL debut? You mean Philip Larson? No, that's not going to happen. You're not going to send Nedeljkovic down. You're not going to send Blomqvist down anytime soon to bring up Larson. Larson is 25, 26. Don't forget, he's older. He's going to have to kick the door down. In addition to getting a little bit lucky with some injuries or some opportunities that are unforeseen. Michael says you were going to eat your words. I assume you mean about the playoffs. I'd love to. I would love to cover a playoff run. K-Man, I'm really shocked that Sullivan is still coaching the Penguins. Look at the Detroit Red Wings. New coach equals winning games now. Do me a favor, K-Man. I want you to go into your toolbox. I want you to find the smallest hammer you've got. I want you to twirl it around in your hands a couple times. I want you to clean it all nice up and shiny. Get yourself a good cloth. I want that thing to shine. I want the handle to, catch the light and really just present well. I want you to twirl that hammer a couple times in your hand and smack yourself with it. Yes, because that's why the Red Wings are winning. Because there's a new coach, and new coach means wins. Not the fact that they hired a much better coach. Not the fact that they had the wrong coach, found the right one. That has nothing to do with it. New coach means wins. Some of y'all, I appreciate you stopping by, man. That stuff just, it kills me because I deal with it all day long. And every reply, oh, it's Sullivan's fault. And I think y'all saw on the road trip, Sullivan and I are not buddies. Not even close, right? but I still hold the line between truth and fiction. When Mike Sullivan is not the right coach, and I've said this 100 times, there are criticisms of Sullivan. Some are significant, but let's fire the coach because the new coach will bring wins. If that were the case, you'd fire your coach 3 times a season. You'd fire your coach every year and a half. Oh, we're kind of slumping. Fire the coach. The logic train on that, they wouldn't bother building tracks. Okay, Brian, I like the plan of acquiring picks and youngsters. How hamstrung do bad contracts thwart that mission? To me, those bad contracts are Jarry, Graves, Carlson, or no different from what every other team goes through. Or is it, the Penguins are a little bit unique in so much as they've got multiple long contracts that they don't like, signed basically on the same day. In fact, they were signed on the same day, Graves and Jarry. It was July 1st, 2023 will not go down as a banner day in, Kyle Dubas's GMing career. That is for sure. Carlson's playing really good. He's playing really well over the last couple of months. So is he worth $10.5 million or $10 million? To the Penguins? No. To a team like Dallas now that's going to be without Heiskanen? I'm just saying. I don't think Carlson is an unmovable albatross. Like you seem to lump him in with Graves and Jarry. I wouldn't do that. The Penguins won't get what they paid. They won't get a first and a second round pick. But, then again, maybe they will. I'm not sure what you're concurring with, Brian, but I appreciate you. Let's go to Derek. How is it that McDavid has more Hart trophies than Sid? It seems wrong. I have opined on this as well. I don't understand why. I can only chalk it up to 2 reasons. One, sort of that Ontario bias. A player from Ontario is automatically better than everybody else in the hockey world. Oh, he's a Toronto, GTA native. Yeah, he knows how to play hockey. We can joke about this with colleagues, but it's 100% true. And McDavid is, from the GTA. Sid is from out in the boonies, right? Sid's from Halifax. Halifax doesn't produce hockey players. Nova Scotia doesn't have great players. They don't have a hockey culture tradition. And then Sid gets the NHL, and fairly or unfairly, I think somewhat unfairly, but he gets slapped with that whiner label early in his career. So when McDavid is racking up Hart trophies for scoring lots of points, Sid was racking up lots of points and Stanley Cup, actually, but not getting recognized because there were still enough of that old guard who were like, nah, I'm not voting for Sid. So that's really why. Seems wrong? Abso-friggin-lutely. Also, don't forget, Sid basically missed 2 years in the middle of his prime. He would have won the Hart Trophy. Was it 2012-13 when David Steckel got him? Accidentally, of course. And he missed a year and a half, basically 2 prime years of his career. That could have been 2 Hart trophies right there. Alexander. Oh, it says, pronounce my name Popel. Okay. Let's go to Matt. Something like, lots of names there, Matt. Tough to get into that on a live chat. Michael says it seems like Dubas has focused on the AHL team this year, and the NHL team has hung out to dry. The AHL team is doing well when the NHL team gets improvements. I think you're looking at this kind of the wrong way, Michael. he's not focused on the AHL team, leaving the NHL team out to dry. He's focused on the future, and it starts with the AHL team. So he's not just adding players to Wilkes-Barre. He's adding future players to the Penguins. We're trying to. Tyson, when does Sullivan get fired? Surely, if we were finally dedicated to a rebuild, retool, I don't think anyone believes he's the guy. The only thing he's done well in the last 5 years is make us suck this year. Well, Tyson, you are correct that actually, no, that's not true. The people who believe Mike Sullivan is the right person get paychecks from the Penguins. The people who believe Sullivan is the right guy, a smart guy, a good hockey coach, are the ones who make decisions. And this is not a Mike Tomlin thing where everybody from the outside is criticizing Tomlin like people around the game are criticizing Mike Tomlin. That's not happening in hockey. And I feel like I've explained till I'm blue in the face these systemic changes Sullivan has made, especially this year, to try to make the Penguins more competitive. I feel like I've explained till I'm blue in the face that the locker room largely is in lockstep and very much on board with Mike Sullivan. I feel like Mike Sullivan's strategy, his philosophy, very much fits the Penguins roster. If you're saying, well, it's about speed, they're not fast anymore, I would say you're not paying attention to the thousands of words I've written about the Penguins system and how it's evolved to a puck possession, down low, old man strength sort of system. They're not playing on the rush. They're not playing the speed game anymore. So what has Sullivan done well in the last 5 years? A lot. I think there were a couple of years, last year especially, when team and player were just not doing well. I don't think Sullivan was in sync with what his team was. I don't think the team was in sync with what the team was. And I thought there were some problems that needed to be sorted out that weren't for months. So, yeah, but this year, Sullivan's probably done his second best coaching job since 2016 this year. I think actually the thing Mike Sullivan could do would be to pick up, to elevate some of the mid-card guys a little better. I think he's done well with the young players. I think he's done well with the core of the team. Maybe some of the guys in the middle get lost a little bit. Let's see here. Let's go to Georgia. I am going to wrap this up here. I recently canceled my subscription. Well, geez, Georgia. I'm rethinking it. May I email you as to the reason and my thinking? You may find it all nonsense, but it's important to me. Sure, you can certainly email. I might not give you the answer you want. I'm a pretty honest sort in that sense. That regular dude, Sid's injuries began in 2000. Oh, that was, 11, the Winter Classic. Listen, I watched that 100 times. I was there. I still don't think it was completely accidental. Yeah, Cliff says this is one of the few teams who actually have lost to the San Jose Sharks this year. That game especially. In fact, did I write? Was that the game after which I wrote, it's over? Stick a fork in the Penguins, shovel the dirt on the grave, all of that. I think so, because that was just brutal. They had a bunch of scoring chances, yada, 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 and they lost to San Jose. I think that's when I kind of kicked them pretty good. Let's see here. That is the end of the questions. I've done almost an hour and a half. Let's see if I can pull this off. Here, just hang with me one second. Let's see if I can show you what I'm working with. I got this hotel room for like $130 a night in Manhattan. I'm on 28th Street, so you can almost see Madison Square Garden over my shoulder. I love this city. I know a lot of you are like, it's chaos. I can't stand it. For me, a night owl who likes to eat dinner at 8, 9 o'clock. Last night, I went to Book of Mormon, and I roll out at 9:30, and just wherever I wanted to go, whatever I wanted, it was there. It is it's manna from heaven. Let's see if I can do this. Anyway, so that wraps it up. That is no pucks given. That is the Penguins live chat. I appreciate you all. Do me a favor, give me the likes, give me the shares, and give me hell where applicable. It's been a blast. We'll do this again. Hopefully, actually, yeah, we can do it next week because there's no games. I won't be on the road. If I go anywhere next week, it'll be purely for me, kind of like yesterday. Oh, wait, Brian has one question. I'm going to answer this one quick. Greatest goal in Penguins history, Mario in Game 1 of the 91 finals, Jagr in the 92 final, Game 1 against the Hawks. Oh, boy. In terms of importance, Mario's goal in 91, Penguins were down, 3-1, 5-3? He splits the two defenders, turns Casey inside out. That was far more important than 92 because Minnesota was winning that game when Mario went, end to end through everybody. And it was important because, A, the Penguins were behind, but also it told the rest of the team, hey, guys, I got this. And the Penguins just kind of steamrolled Minnesota from there. In 92, that you're talking about that Jagr goal where he and Mario just kick it through the skates and play with the puck back and forth and put on a clinic before Jagr scored on the backhand. That probably broke Chicago, but the Penguins would have broken Chicago anyway. That series was never really in doubt. It was close. Chicago put up a fight, but that was a heavyweight against a middleweight. As good as Chicago was, they were not going to touch the Penguins. And I think both sides knew that. Okay, so there I am done. My friends, have fun. We'll see you.